Next, no surprise on his topic, our very own ICANN representative, I feel like, is here to speak to you on the new round of gTLDs. Come on up, Mr. Mondini.
Look at that nice new slide. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. I always learn so much by attending all of these conferences, and I want to say really sincere thanks to Helmut and Tess and Michael and so many of you that have worked really hard to put this together, and really grateful for the kind invitation. Of course, many of you are here to hear about the latest developments in the new gTLD program. But I have to say there are many of you that are very intimately aware of the developments of the new gTLD program. And that's because you participate in the ICANN policymaking processes. And some of you have known for over a decade. But I really want to very, very sincerely thank you for everything you do in terms of dedicating time and resource and expertise to really make a program like this come together. And I think all of us in the room owe a thanks to all of you who do the volunteering and put in the hard work. And you know, for all the ups and downs of working in the policymaking process, there is something that you really gain in terms of a deep understanding of multi-stakeholder models, but also really important friendships and connections across different sectors that will, I would argue, inform your business activities. So I encourage everyone to give it a go. Try out a working group, sign up for a supporting organization or an advisory committee structure at ICANN, and please do speak to people here who are knowledgeable and can tell you about their experience. I do, of course, want to thank all of you generally who are professionals working in this sector, because really it's whether you're a registry or a registrar, a reseller, an investor, a consultant, a service provider, an innovator, the growth of the domain name sector is in our mutual interest, and it is in the global interest. And as I said to somebody last night, ICANN doesn't exist without you, and we're here to provide the platforms that allowed you to succeed in your endeavors. You know, we are a nonprofit organization, and we're very aware that our funding comes from your activities, from your business success, and so we depend on that. And we depend on you as technical and operational partners in making the DNS work. And we do this to meet our by-law mandated goals. We want to provide competition and choice within the DNS. We are required to do so in a way that respects the stability, security, and the resiliency of the domain name sector. And in fact, we want to allow for evolution and innovation in this space. We also have some goals that are related to inclusion, diversity, expansion, and I believe we share them with many of you. We just heard about the important and growing Arabic market, and the current next round planning comes with a very, very strong impetus by our community to make sure that we focus on markets and diversity and places that may not yet be well represented among us in our sector. And I'll return to this topic in a moment. I believe it's a diversity and inclusion goal that many share as you seek new opportunities in new markets and with new customer categories. So of course, I did promise to give an update on the timeline and of the gTLD program, and you will be happy to hear that we are on track. We are on track. We are on track to open a new gTLD application window in April of 2026. We've said that for quite a long time, and with every day of all the work that these communities do, we are reassured that we will meet that goal. The draft rules and the draft provisions of the applicant guidebook, as it's called, will be available from May of 2025. This should give you the gist of what you need to know about how to apply if you're going to be a gTLD registry operator. And then the final guidebook will come later in 2025, around November, but in plenty of time for the opening of the application window. There are two components. I'm going to come back and talk to them in a bit. They open just 90 days from now. These are called the Applicant Support Program, under which the qualified entities with some financial need can benefit from training, from pro bono services, and from some discounts in the application fees. And then there's another one for any of you who are registry service providers. I'm just curious, apart from our friends at Team Internet, are there other current backend service providers here? Because I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Great. There are some issues remaining. And so this, the program comes from consensus policy development among all the stakeholder groups. And some of the remaining issues, which I thought I had a list of. Sorry. No, I guess I skipped that one. Well, I'll tell you what the issues are. So, and it's just a sample list of the things that are being worked on really as we speak. One is community priority applications. There's envisioned a category of gTLD application for communities, and the rules around those are still being decided. Contention set resolution. If two of you apply for the same gTLD string, the ways that those will be resolved is a really, really strong, important focus right now. Public interest commitments. These are where registries make a commitment to go above and beyond what may be in their contract with ICANN to really enhance what they're doing in terms of their value offering. The question about how those could be enforced is an issue, as are the appeals processes. If at any point in the process you need redress or review of a decision, these are being nailed down. But as I said, the board and the community are really very much in dialogue in this and very, very committed to progress. And I have to say, it was alluded to earlier, I think Nigel mentioned, on the part of ICANN that I work for, which is the org. I'm actually, a paid employee of ICANN organization, which supports ICANN, the whole community. There is a tremendous amount of work being undertaken by a really stellar and multi-talented program team. And they're building all kinds of systems, tools to get ready for this next round to open. These are things like application intake portals, processes, operational readiness, assessment of applications, all of the systems to do that, and ways to respond if there are unexpected and issues that may cause a delay in an application. We've had lots of feedback on what we learned from the last round, and we have worked really, really hard to make sure that the uncertainty or the difficulties that the market and the business entities don't like can be addressed in a way that is as predictable and stable as possible. Now, I'm doing something here today, which is part of another effort of the organization, which is a very robust communications and outreach effort. And this also is something that really needs to work in communication, in coordination with you. Our interim CEO, Sally Costerton, is spearheading this work personally. And I, along with 6 of my counterparts, I'm a regional vice president for Europe. We have 6 other regional vice presidents for regions of the world. We are going out and working directly with organizations like yours to execute targeting plans and leave no stone unturned to reach organizations and potential applicants that frankly often know nothing about ICANN, have never considered new approaches to their online architecture, whether to invest in new ways to think of themselves and how they might use the domain name system. So considering that many of the parties who could benefit from operating a gTLD are unaware of their existence, and that gTLDs are quite unique in terms of the product or service that's being offered, an awareness campaign is not straightforward. And one of the lessons that we learned, again, to amplify our efforts, is to rely on partners in the community, and that means you. So we are also conferring with members of the ICANN policymaking community, internet service providers, governmental advisory committee members, members of the user community, the at-large, and finding ways that we can give them toolkits and materials to go out and at least raise awareness of the new round that's coming. And I've had many constructive discussions with many of you and many leaders of the community of how we can work together. I've been around with, again, some of you have some war stories, I guess, from the last round. I joined really just in 2011, I joined ICANN, and it was just as the last round was being kicked off, and it was really not a very well-received effort to publicize or promote the next round. I'd worked for Deloitte as a consultant in Silicon Valley for about a decade, and I showed up at the ICANN office, and on the fourth day I was there, I was sent on a 36-country roadshow. I was given a copy of the applicant guidebook and put on a plane to Dubai. That was my first stop. And by the time I landed, I was supposed to be able to give talks like this about the wonders of gTLDs. Now, I'll let you in on a secret. When I joined ICANN, I didn't know what a gTLD was. I'd been a tech consultant in Silicon Valley for many, many years, but your world was not one that I was familiar with. And I have to say, I mean, full disclosure, when it was explained to me, oh, we're going to expand the number of them, there's going to be many, many more than just the ones that are available now, I thought, wow, why? It seems really odd thing to do. But I traveled around the world and I visited places, from Dubai to Europe to India to China, and I met with regions and cities, and I met with entrepreneurs, and I met with communities that cared about language and scripts. And I came back convinced that there was a lot of inspiration and hope and innovation that would be associated with gTLDs. And so it was really kind of an incredible experience of my life, and a really kind of sort of brought me into this world in a way that was shed a lot of light on the possibilities. So we spoke to a lot of conferences, we made lots of presentations, we visited chambers of commerce, and so the promise of gTLDs became something that we became a little bit more conversant in. But still, I think we did not do our best to partner with those of you who are, say, in the channel or consultants or in the ecosystem to do our part to raise awareness and then count on you to come in and help further support their journey. So, now we have more than 1,200 gTLDs. Now, back then, ICANN, in those crazy days, had about 140 employees, and now we're closer to 450. There was nothing like the stakeholder engagement team, of which I'm a part. There was something called global partnerships with 5 people. And now we're about 40 people in 36 countries, and we're out talking about all of ICANN's major initiatives all the time. And whether it's business, government, civil society, technologists, or the domain name sector, we're talking about ICANN's work and mission and all the important areas that we've discussed here today, addressing abuse, improving the domain name system, security and stability issues, and building the community and supporting the model. So, I was reflecting, and again, I think I'm missing a slide, or they're in the wrong order, and I apologize. I was reflecting on kind of the big picture, and I think it was Nigel who said we're entering turbulent times, and I really feel like the times, the prevailing paradigm now around the world is very much about identity and belonging and security. And I think when they're the prevailing paradigms in the world, it makes sense that those values would be ascendant online. So identity, belonging, and security, I think they're deeply linked to all of your businesses and deeply linked to what ICANN is trying to do in its mission. And we're really proud of the work that we've done together to provide a platform for these next level innovations. I mentioned already ICANN's bylaws. We're there for consumer choice, for competition, for security, stability, and resilience, and evolution in the domain name system. But also I mentioned earlier that we have a very strong focus on digital inclusion and bringing more of the world into the domain name ecosystem, if you will. So our ICANN community has really stressed the importance of this as we promote and raise awareness of the new gTLD program. We would like to see new and diverse actors who until now maybe have not been, as I said, present in the DNS. These are organizations like nonprofits or social enterprises, indigenous communities, entrepreneurs in the developing world and the global majority countries in particular. And so, as I said, it's part of a drive to close the gap. And it's part of the drive to bring the promise of the domain name sector entrepreneurship to different regions of the world. So I studied economics, so way before my Deloitte career, I was an economics student. And I know that where expertise and investment and equipment and resources exist tends to be the parts of the world where an industry or a sector will later develop. But I also know over time that sometimes these comparative advantages can erode and one part of the world will cede dominance to other parts of the world that can catch up. And based on ICANN campaigns that we've run in different parts of the world, for example, to talk about internationalized domain names and universal acceptance of them, we have data that indicates that there really is a sort of a growing possibility of opportunity for the sector to flourish in new geographic areas. Talent and demand exist. For example, we have a coalition for digital Africa where we're doing capacity building with many of the country code top-level domains. And the talent and the demand exist in this really underserved and underconnected continent. And so we really feel that there is an opportunity for the domain name sector to take hold in new parts of the world. And so the new gTLD program contains two really important programs that I mentioned earlier. The first is on the slide. It's called the Applicant Support Program. And the second is the Registry Service Provider Evaluation Program. So the Applicant Support Program, it aims to make the application for a new gTLD more attainable for entities interested in running a registry. Yet they may need financial support or some training or resources to do so. So as I mentioned, the entities like nonprofits, charities, social enterprises, intergovernmental organizations, entrepreneurs in global majority countries, they can apply. And what they get from the ASP is a reduction in their application fees and capacity development, access to pro bono counselors, and some volunteer professional services that help them throughout the application process. So this is really my first ask of you, is that you can sign up, please, if you're interested to provide pro bono professional advice through the application process to an entity that will have qualified for this support. And you can do that by emailing us at globalsupport@icann.org and just say, I want to be on the list to provide pro bono support to deserving applicants. And you can, of course, give us leads or ideas. As I said, you know the markets, you know the opportunities, you know in a much more robust way the promise and the uses and the use case of gTLD, and how this could enhance value or bring value to organizations around the world. So send us a lead. We started up a gTLD mailing list that's growing very rapidly. We'll give updates on that. You can post updates on that, leads and ideas and so forth. The second one, again, is I think there are just a handful of the registry service providers in the room, but maybe some of you are thinking of going into this business. And in its own way, it also will help these less equipped entities that may want to have a gTLD. So about 50 organizations already in the world give these services to the existing 1,200 plus gTLDs. And so this is an opportunity for them and potentially more to pre-qualify and be identified as being eligible to provide these services. And again, if you remember the timeline, this is happening before the application window opens in April of 2026, so that a list of the eligible RSPs is available. There are various kinds of backend services that are provided, and there's a much more, compared to the 2012 round, a much more, I would say, streamlined, efficient, and tailored evaluation process. And the idea is that this application will open, the window will open November 19th, so I think it's 90 days from now, exactly. And then by December 2025, already those that have been through the evaluation will appear on lists as being eligible and could be contacted by people seeking partners and back-end service providers. So your existence can make the prospect of applying for a gTLD a slightly easier lift for those applicants. And that's why we have established, and the community has decided to do this program and to do it in advance of the opening of the general round. So the idea is that if you are able, this is my second ask, and we haven't quite really worked out where to put this information, but my sense is that if you're in the business of providing back-end services and you plan to continue to do so, that you would be willing to be publicly identified as intending to continue to do so. And so it's potentially with our registry stakeholder group, just trying to figure out where such a list could go, because as my colleagues and I travel around the world and we surface potential applicants that say, well, how do I get their back-end operations? We could say, well, here's at least a list of organizations that are doing it now, and they're likely to be able to do it later and like applying. So it's even more than just applying to be an RSP, letting the world know that you're planning to apply to be an RSP and appearing somewhere where we can point people to you in sort of a fair, neutral way on an alphabetical list or something. This is something that I'm really trying to push that we could have happen. And maybe if you have ideas, you can let me know during the break. Yeah, and so apply for that, please. So again, many of you have asked me, you've said, how can we help? Those are two ways to help. If you want to provide pro bono services to the qualified applicant support applicants, we would be delighted to have you on that roster. So just send us an email indicating your interest. And if you're planning to be an RSP or planning to apply to be pre-evaluated, want to put your name out there as being a partner to these applicants, we are very keen to enable that. Now, I've made asks of you, and what we owe you in return are some good materials, some good, I would say, progress on the implementation of the program. We need to stick to the timeline. We need to do the steady pace of webinars, showing up at conferences, including conferences that, again, we haven't been to before, and may not know about ICANN and gTLDs, and to make that very transparent so you can see where we're appearing and who we're speaking to around the world. So we've established, in addition to the events that we're holding, which you can see on the on the engagement calendar, I clearly have sent the wrong version of the slides. We have something called an applicant, a new gTLD Community Champions Toolkit. And so this is not what's on the slide right now, because that slide is missing, but we have publicly available basic slides about the program, about what gTLDs are, what the application periods will be, how it works, where to go. We have an increasingly robust website. It's a little too inside jargon ICANN for my taste, so we're making it more friendly to the marketplace. We're rejuvenating that. And we're putting a whole section of applicant readiness there, which again, as we surface people that may be interested, we have somewhere to go to keep them informed, to help them become aware of what they need to go to be guided through the application process. So keep an eye on the website, join the mailing list, and please follow us on social media. As I said, I'm here through the afternoon. I'd be delighted to hear your advice, any reactions you have to what I've said here. The program is very big. It's very big. I mean, ICANN does a lot, but this is a big thing that ICANN does. And in many ways, it's the most visible outcome of the multi-stakeholder policy-making process, because you can actually point to things people see, ordinary users see as an extension of a domain name, and make a connection to our organization and the model in which so many of you participate. And I think in partnership with you this time around, we're very interested to see all of the new innovations, categories, and diversity of applications that we hope that the next round of new gTLDs will bring. So thank you. Apologies for the slide glitch, entirely my fault, but thank you very much for having me, and thanks again for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Got any questions for Chris? No? I've just got one question on the verification side of things. You said it's always a case, whether it's a member organization or a non-profit or a for-profit organization, if you're offering a discount program to companies or groups, how do you verify they are who they say they are? Because I worked for a trade association for 3 years, and we had very big companies who have lots of money try and get in with a cheap membership using one division. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Yes, and yes, there is a lot of attention to these kind of cases, I would say. I participated in on I think it was August 1st, we did an applicant support program webinar, and we went into much more detail in the background due diligence and then sort of the verification of the, definitions of affiliation with big players and that. And so it's, again, this is ICANN policymaking really tries to anticipate every possible thing that can happen. I will tell you, in my opinion, about 20% of those things often never happen, and there's always about 20% things that we didn't consider. But we've been very, very thorough in answering exactly that question. And so there is also an applicant support program guidebook that talks about the what must be submitted with the application and what kind of verification, which is pretty rigorous, we'll go through to make sure that you say who you are when you apply.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. A round of applause for Chris and ICANN. Thank you.